I used to think silence meant peace. But lately, silence in our house felt heavy like a storm waiting to break. The kind of silence that makes your chest ache because you know something's wrong. Even if you can't prove it, every night, Daniel would come home later and later. He used to walk through the door, kiss my forehead, and tell me about his day. But now, nothing. Just a tired sigh, a half smile, and the same words every time. Long day, babe. I'm just tired. I wanted to believe him. God, I needed to believe him. Because the alternative, the thought that he might not love me anymore, was unbearable. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the clock. 10:43 p.m. Dinner had gone cold hours ago. His favorite meal, creamy pasta with grilled chicken. The one I used to make when we first moved in together, was untouched. When I finally heard his car pull into the driveway, my heart actually fluttered. It's pathetic, right? How even when someone's breaking your heart, a part of you still lights up at the sound of their voice? He walked in looking exhausted. His tie was loose, shirt wrinkled. And there was some smell faintly familiar, but not from our home. Hey, I said softly. Hey, he muttered. Dropping his briefcase by the door, I smiled, trying to sound cheerful. You didn't text back. I got worried. He rubbed his neck. Yeah, sorry. I was just swamped. You know how it is, I nodded. Of course. I made dinner. He hesitated. I already ate. That hit harder than it should have. Oh, with who? Just? The guys from work. I wanted to believe it. I really did. But something in his tone, flat, defensive, made my stomach twist. When he went to shower, I sat there staring at his untouched plate. My heart whispered, he's just tired. But my gut screamed, no, Elena, this is something else. That night, when he fell asleep beside me, I stared at him in the dark. His breathing was even, peaceful. And I realized something that shattered me more than anything else ever had. I was lying next to a stranger. The next morning, I decided to ignore it. I put on makeup, smiled in the mirror, and told myself it was just a rough patch. Everyone has them, right? I went to work at the small art studio downtown, my safe place. Painting always helped me breathe. It reminded me of who I was before I became his wife. My coworker, Jenna, noticed right away. You okay? You look distracted. I forced a laugh. Just tired. The irony almost made me choke. She gave me that look, the kind of look only your best friend can give you. The one that says, you don't have to lie to me. But I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. That evening, Daniel texted, working late again. Don't wait up. No love you. No emoji. No warmth. I tried to shake it off. I poured myself a glass of wine, turned on the TV, and scrolled through old pictures on my phone. The two of us laughing at the beach. His arm around me at our anniversary dinner. His eyes used to light up when he looked at me. Now they were empty. I put the phone down and whispered, what happened to us? Then I saw his laptop bag on the counter. He never left it home, ever. At first, I didn't mean to look. But curiosity mixed with pain is a dangerous thing. I opened it slowly, heart pounding. Inside were some work papers, a charger, and a receipt. A receipt from a fancy restaurant, one we'd talked about going to for months but never could afford. 2 entrees. 2 glasses of wine. The date, last night. The time, 8:17 p.m. That was the night he came home saying he'd already eaten. My hands trembled. I read the restaurant name again and again until the letters blurred through tears. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was just numb. When he came home that night, I pretended to be asleep. He kissed my forehead softly just like he used to and whispered something under his breath. I couldn't make it out, but as I lay there staring into the dark, a single thought repeated in my mind like a broken record. I thought he was just tired. But the truth is coming for me. And deep down, I knew whatever it was, it would break me. Morning light crept through the curtains, but I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that restaurant receipt. 2 glasses of wine. 2 entrees. Not the guys from work, not exhaustion. A lie. When Daniel stirred beside me, I shut my eyes and pretended to sleep. He moved quietly, like someone trying not to wake a guilty conscience. I heard the click of his belt buckle, the rustle of his tie, the soft thud of his shoes on the carpet. Then his phone buzzed. Normally, I'd never invade his privacy. But something inside me snapped. A voice whispered, you deserve to know. He stepped into the bathroom, and that was my chance. I grabbed his phone from the nightstand, heart racing so fast I thought it might give me away. Face ID didn't work. He was too far, but when it asked for a passcode, my trembling fingers typed his birthday, wrong. Then I remembered last year he changed it to our anniversary date. Click, unlocked. The screen opened to a text thread pinned at the top. Her name, Alyssa. I froze. That red heart next to her name felt like a knife twisting inside my chest. Alyssa, last night was perfect. I can still taste the wine on your lips. Daniel, you're impossible to forget. I'll find a way to see you tonight. I covered my mouth to keep from gasping. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone, then the bathroom door creaked open. I panicked and tossed the phone back onto the bed, face down. He walked out, towel around his waist, hair damp, humming like nothing was wrong. Morning. He said casually. I forced a smile. Morning. Coffee's on the counter. He grinned. You're the best. He leaned down to kiss my cheek, but I flinched. It was barely noticeable, but he felt it. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. He smirked, completely unaware that the lie he'd been using had now become my armor. When he left for work, I stood by the window and watched his car disappear down the street. My hands were clenched so tightly my nails left crescent marks in my palms. Part of me wanted to scream, to call him, to throw every memory we'd built right in his face. But another part, the quieter, stronger part, told me to wait. If I was going to confront him, I needed proof. Real proof. So that evening, I called Jenna. Hey, I said, trying to sound normal. What's up? You sound off. I took a deep breath. I need your help. I think Daniel's seeing someone. Silence. Then, oh, Elena. I just need to know for sure, I said quickly before I lost my nerve. I'm not crazy, right? I can't confront him without being sure, she sighed. All right. What do you need me to do? We came up with a plan. Jenna's cousin worked part-time at a restaurant near Daniel's office. If Daniel was meeting someone after work again, we'd find out. That night, I couldn't eat. Couldn't focus. I sat by the window watching the streetlights flicker while time dragged by. At 9:06 p.m. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. He's here. My heart skipped. With who? I typed back. A few seconds passed. Then some blonde woman. Fancy dress. They're holding hands, and just like that, my world went silent. No sound, no heartbeat. Just this ringing in my ears, like my body couldn't process the truth. The man I loved, the man I built my whole life around, was sitting in a restaurant laughing with another woman. I wanted to rush there. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. But instead, I sank to the floor and just cried. The kind of crying that doesn't even sound human. When he came home that night, I was calm. I had washed my face, put on pajamas, and pretended to watch TV. He walked in, smelling faintly of that same unfamiliar perfume. Long day? I asked softly. Yeah, he said, loosening his tie. I'm starving. Didn't even get a chance to eat. My chest tightened, but I smiled. I'll warm up some leftovers. He smiled. You're amazing, you know that? I nodded, forcing a light laugh. Yeah, I know. Inside, though, something had changed. I wasn't the desperate, confused wife anymore. I was quiet, watching, planning. He didn't know it yet, but the same woman he was lying to every night was about to become the reason he'd never sleep peacefully again. Later, when he fell asleep, I stared at him just like before. Except this time, there was no sadness left in me. Only clarity. Love makes you blind. Pain opens your eyes, and I was wide awake now. As I lay there, I whispered to myself. You wanted her, Daniel? Fine, but you're going to remember me. Not as the woman who cried when you broke her heart, but as the one who made you wish you'd never done it. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be cruel. It would be emotional, poetic, something he'd feel every single day when he looked in the mirror. And tonight was just the beginning. The morning after I learned the truth, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even look at him differently. Instead, I smiled. That's the thing about heartbreak, it doesn't always show. Sometimes it hides behind calm eyes and a soft good morning. Daniel kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work. You okay? You seem better today. I looked up at him and smiled sweetly. Yeah, just tired. He grinned, completely unaware of how those words now carried a whole new meaning. When he left, I sat at the table with my coffee and made a list. Not of revenge ideas, not yet, but of what I'd lost. Myself, my confidence, my joy. Somewhere between his lies and my trust, I'd forgotten who Elena Carter was, and I'd decided that day I was going to remember. Step 1. Stop revolving around him. For weeks, my life had been centered on his schedule, his moods, his silence. That stopped now. I went to the gym for the first time in months. Not to impress him, but because I missed the feeling of being alive. The burn in my muscles felt like anger leaving my body. Afterward, I stopped by a salon, cut my hair shorter, lighter. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked fierce, unbothered, ready. When I got home, Daniel's car wasn't there yet. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't care. I lit a candle, poured myself a glass of wine, and started painting again. Soft strokes, bold colors, my emotions on canvas. When Daniel finally walked in, he looked surprised. Wow, he said, staring at me. You look different. I turned, paintbrush in hand. Do I? Yeah, new haircut? I smiled. Felt like a change. He nodded slowly, eyes scanning me like he was trying to read something he couldn't understand. Then, The next line slipped out of his mouth, an innocent one, but it almost made me laugh. You seem happier lately, I smiled faintly. Maybe I am, he blinked, thrown off. For weeks, I had been the quiet, worried wife. Now, I was calm, radiant even. He wasn't used to that. And that's when I realized the most powerful kind of revenge starts with confusion. Over the next few days, I changed my rhythm completely. I stopped texting him first. Stopped waiting for his car in the driveway. Stopped asking about his day. When he lied, I let him, but slowly. He started to notice. One night, he came home early. That hadn't happened in months. Hey, he said, walking into the living room. You didn't wait for me? I looked up from my book. Oh, I didn't know what time you'd be home. Figured you were busy, he frowned slightly. I told you I might be late. Yeah, I said softly. You always are, his jaw tightened. Is something wrong? I smiled. No, Daniel. Everything's perfect. That's when he started to look nervous. He couldn't read me anymore, and that scared him. Men like Daniel thrive on control. Once you stop reacting, they lose it. A week later, I ran into him downtown. I wasn't supposed to. He said he had a late client meeting, but there he was across the street. With her, Alyssa, they were walking out of a restaurant. Laughing like teenagers. My chest tightened, but I didn't let myself fall apart. Instead, I smiled, adjusted my purse, and crossed the street right toward them. Daniel? I said brightly. He froze. Alyssa's smile faded. Elena, hey. What are you doing here? Oh, just met a friend for lunch. I looked at Alyssa and offered a polite smile. You must be Alyssa, she hesitated. Hi, I extended my hand. It's nice to finally meet Daniel's client. Her face went pale. Daniel's did too. Well, I said sweetly, don't let me interrupt. You two look busy. I walked away before either of them could speak. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. But I didn't look back once. That moment wasn't about confrontation, it was about power. For the first time since everything started, I had it. That night, Daniel came home looking panicked. Elena, we need to talk. I kept washing dishes, pretending not to care. About what? He exhaled sharply. I saw you today. Oh, you mean when you were at lunch with your client? Elena, please. I turned, eyes calm, voice steady. You don't have to lie anymore, Daniel. I know, he froze. Know what? I laughed softly. You really want to play dumb? Fine, keep lying. I'm done listening anyway. He stared at me, stunned. You're done? I nodded. Yeah, with pretending. With waiting. With crying over someone who forgot how to love me. He stepped closer. Elena, it's not what you think, it's exactly what I think. I met his eyes. And honestly, I'm glad. He repeated, confused, because you reminded me what it feels like to lose myself. And I'm never letting that happen again. I dried my hands, walked past him, and went upstairs without another word. He didn't follow me that night. I stood by the window, watching the moonlight spill across our backyard. I expected to feel broken, but instead, I felt light. I realized then that my revenge had already begun. Not through lies or shouting or destruction, but through silence, growth, and the unsettling peace that comes when you stop caring what your betrayer thinks. Because that's what true emotional revenge is, not making them suffer, but showing them they never had the power to destroy you. And from the look on Daniel's face earlier, he was starting to realize that the silence between us had changed. Before, it was pain-filled with distance and loneliness. Now, it was something different. Now, he was the one who felt it. Daniel tried to pretend everything was fine, but I could see it. The uncertainty in his eyes. The way his voice softened when he spoke to me, careful, unsure, the balance had shifted. For the first time in our marriage, he was the one chasing my attention. It started with small things. He began texting me again during the day, little messages he hadn't sent in months. Hope your morning's good. You looked beautiful today. Dinner tonight? I'd read them and let them sit unanswered. He'd come home earlier now, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with takeout from my favorite place. I'd smile politely, thank him, and go back to whatever I was doing. No emotion, no reaction. He didn't understand that indifference hurts more than anger ever could. A week later, I went out for dinner with friends from the art studio. I wore a black dress, simple but elegant, the kind that made people look twice without knowing why. As I laughed with my friends, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: freedom. No waiting for a text. No guilt for smiling too wide. Just me. When I got home that night, Daniel was waiting in the living room. Where were you? He asked, trying to sound casual, but his jaw was tight. I raised an eyebrow. Out with who? Friends. I took off my coat and set my purse down. He stood up. You could have told me. I smirked. I could have. You don't usually tell me when you're working late, though, do you? He froze, guilt flashing across his face. Elena, I'm not mad. I interrupted softly. You made your choices, Daniel. I'm just making mine now. He didn't say anything. Just stared like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him, and maybe he didn't. Because that woman, the one who waited by the window every night, was gone. The next morning, I found him sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through his phone. "Morning," I said, grabbing coffee. He looked up quickly. "Morning. Do you want to do something this weekend?" "Just us." I sipped my coffee. "Like what?" "I don't know. Maybe a drive to the lake? We could use a reset." "A reset." Funny how men ask for that only when they start to lose control of the narrative. "I'll think about it," I said, walking away. He frowned. "Elena, I'm trying here." I turned. "Now you are. But when I needed you, you were somewhere else." His eyes dropped. He didn't argue, and in that quiet moment, I realized something. He was starting to feel what I had felt for months. That sinking, aching uncertainty, that was my revenge. Over the next few days, the cracks in his confidence started to show. He'd check his phone constantly when I was around, hiding the screen whenever I walked by. I didn't care anymore, not because I didn't notice, but because I didn't need to. He was unraveling, all on his own. One night, I came home from the studio late. He was sitting in the dark, waiting. "Where were you?" I shrugged. "At work." He stood up. "At this hour?" I smiled faintly. "You sound jealous." He exhaled sharply. "I just want to know what's going on with us." "What's going on," I said quietly, "is what you created. You lied, you cheated, and now you don't get to ask for clarity." His voice cracked. "I made a mistake, Elena." I tilted my head. "Which part was the mistake? The lying or the loving someone else?" He didn't answer, and the silence that followed was deafening. A few nights later, I went out again, this time alone. I didn't tell him where. I sat in a cozy little cafe, sketching in my journal, the sound of soft jazz filling the air. For once, my thoughts weren't consumed by him. Then, my phone buzzed. "Daniel, are you okay?" "Daniel, it's late." "Daniel, please tell me where you are." I smiled. Funny how the man who once forgot I existed now couldn't stand not knowing where I was. I didn't reply. Instead, I ordered dessert, stayed another hour, and let him drown in his own anxiety. When I finally got home, he was pacing by the window. He looked up immediately. "Where were you? I've been calling you for hours." I placed my bag down calmly. "You used to do the same to me, remember? When I'd text you all night and get nothing." He rubbed his face. "Elena, I'm sorry, all right? I've been stupid." "Alyssa, it's over." It meant nothing. I met his eyes. "You think I care?" He blinked. "What?" I stepped closer, my voice soft but sharp. "You think breaking things off fixes what you broke in me? It doesn't. You don't get to choose when I start healing, Daniel. That's mine now." He swallowed hard, searching my face for any sign of forgiveness. "There was none." "I loved you," I said quietly. "More than you'll ever understand. But I'm done loving someone who doesn't value it." Then I turned and walked away. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Because the moment I stopped chasing his love, he started chasing mine. A few days later, Jenna called me. "You sound different," she said. "Like, peaceful." I smiled. "Yeah, I think I finally found my closure." "Did he find out you knew everything?" "Oh, he knows," I said softly. "He just doesn't know what I'm going to do next." "Are you going to leave him?" I looked out the window at the fading sunset. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because," I whispered, "he's only just starting to feel what I felt. I want him to live in that feeling a little longer." And that's when I knew the woman who once begged for love had become the woman who no longer needed it. That's real power. That's real revenge. And Daniel Carter hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. I used to think revenge had to be loud screaming matches, broken plates, slamming doors. But real revenge, it's quiet. It's the kind that makes them wake up in the middle of the night wondering how they lost you, and knowing they can never get you back. Daniel was learning that the hard way. It started small. He began to overcompensate, doing chores he'd never touched before, planning dinners, buying me gifts. He was trying to rewrite history one apology at a time. I let him. Not because I believed him, but because I wanted him to feel how hollow his gestures were. When someone breaks your heart, their guilt becomes their punishment. And I could see it in his eyes every time I didn't react. One Friday evening, he came home early again, holding a bouquet of lilies, my favorite flowers. "Elena," he said softly, standing in the doorway, "can we talk?" I was sitting on the couch, sketchbook open, pretending to be absorbed in a drawing. "Sure," I said without looking up. He stepped closer. "I ended it with her. It's done. I told Alyssa I can't see her anymore." I glanced up for a brief second, then returned to my sketch. "Okay," he blinked. "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Daniel?" "Congratulations. Do you want a medal for stopping something that shouldn't have happened in the first place?" He sighed. "I'm trying to fix this." "No, you're trying to fix your guilt. There's a difference." He sat down beside me, reaching for my hand. "Please, Elena, I miss you. I miss us." I gently pulled my hand away. You missed the version of me who forgave everything. She's gone, his shoulders slumped. What do you want me to do? I smiled faintly. Live with what you did. That was the first time he didn't have a comeback that night. He slept on the couch. I didn't ask him to. He just knew he didn't belong beside me anymore, but even as he lay there, I could hear him shifting, sighing, trying to fall asleep. And I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd crossed that invisible line where pain stops being pain and becomes clarity. I was healing. And he was breaking. A week later, I got an email from a local art gallery. They'd seen my work through a friend and wanted to feature some of my paintings in an upcoming exhibit. My heart nearly stopped. For years, I'd put my dreams on hold for our marriage. Now, my art, my passion, was finally being seen. I wanted to tell someone, to share that joy. But Daniel wasn't that person anymore. So I called Jenna instead. That's amazing. She squealed over the phone. You're doing it, Elena. You're really doing it. I smiled. Yeah, I guess I am. When I hung up, I looked around the house that used to feel like a home. Now, it was just walls and furniture, a space filled with echoes of a love that didn't survive. But for the first time, that didn't scare me. Later that night, Daniel found the gallery email open on my laptop. You didn't tell me, he said. Holding the screen like evidence, I looked up from my cup of tea. Tell you what? That you're showing your paintings at a gallery. I shrugged. It's not a big deal. Yes, it is. This is huge, Elena. I should have been the first to know. I tilted my head. Why? You weren't the first to know when you started seeing someone else. He flinched. That's not fair. No, Daniel, I said quietly. What wasn't fair was me waiting every night for a man who was busy falling in love with someone else. He looked away. His face pale. I continued. You lost the right to be part of my victories when you stopped standing beside me during my pain. He nodded slowly, unable to meet my eyes. And that's when I realized, the man who once made me feel small now stood before me feeling lesser. Days turned into weeks. The air between us was heavy, full of unspoken words. He kept trying. I kept moving forward. The night of the art show arrived and I was a bundle of nerves. I wore a deep blue dress, elegant, confident, everything I hadn't been in a long time. When I walked into the gallery, people turned. Not because of what I was wearing, but because I carried a kind of quiet strength that no one could fake. My paintings hung on the wall, each one a reflection of a different part of my healing. Colors that once screamed pain now whispered peace. Halfway through the evening, I saw Daniel walk in. He looked around, awkward, lost, like a stranger in my world. When his eyes met mine, he smiled softly. They're beautiful. Thank you, I said. I'm proud of you. I nodded. You should be. I'm finally living the life I wanted. He took a step closer. I wish I could still be part of it. I looked at him for a long moment. You were a part of what made me who I am, but not of where I'm going. And for the first time, I saw it. The exact moment he realized he'd lost me for good. There were no tears, no screaming, no dramatic goodbye. Just quiet acceptance. He left before the night was over. And as I stood surrounded by my art, my friends, and my new beginning, I realized that my revenge was complete, not because I hurt him, but because I healed myself. Later that night, I came home, stood in front of the mirror, and whispered, you did it, Elena, you made it through. The woman looking back at me wasn't broken anymore. She was whole. Daniel's shadow no longer touched her, and that was the sweetest revenge of all. The morning after the gallery show, the world felt quiet. Not the kind of silence that comes from emptiness, but the kind that hums softly after a storm has passed. For the first time in what felt like years, I woke up without heaviness pressing on my chest. The light that streamed through the curtains was warm, gentle, forgiving. It was as if life itself was saying, you made it. I got up, poured myself a cup of coffee, and stepped out onto the small balcony of my apartment. The city below was already awake, cars rushing by, people heading to work, someone walking a dog down the street. It was all so normal. And yet, everything had changed for me. I wasn't the same Elena Carter who once begged a man to love her right. I wasn't the woman who cried over texts that never came. I was someone new. Someone who learned to stand alone and found peace in it. A soft ping from my phone broke the quiet. It was a message from Daniel. I'm leaving town for a while. Need to clear my head. I know I can't undo what I did, but I hope someday you'll remember the good things too. I'll always love you, Elena. Take care. I stared at the message for a long time. A few months ago, that text would have shattered me. Now, it felt like a door finally closing. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I set my phone down, exhaled deeply, and whispered to myself, you don't need his words to move on. You already did. That weekend, the gallery called again. They wanted to feature my work in a bigger exhibition in New York, my dream city. The thought made me smile. Once upon a time, I imagined moving there with Daniel. Now, I was going alone and somehow that made it even better when I told Jenna. She screamed over the phone, "Elena, this is insane. You're going to be huge." I laughed. I don't know about huge, but I finally feel free. She got quiet for a second, then said, "You know what? I think that's the best kind of revenge. Living free and happy while they stay haunted by what they lost." Her words hit deep. Because that was exactly it. I didn't destroy Daniel. I didn't need to. He destroyed himself the moment he betrayed a woman who truly loved him. All I did was stop saving him from the consequences. As I packed my things for the move, I came across a small box at the back of the closet. Inside were fragments of my old life photos, ticket stubs, love letters, small tokens of a love that used to mean everything. For a moment, nostalgia tugged at me. Not the kind that hurts, but the kind that lets you look back and smile at how far you've come. I picked up one picture, Daniel and I laughing at a picnic, sun in our hair, hope in our eyes. We looked happy. And maybe at that moment we were. I placed the photo back in the box, closed it, and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me what I deserve." Then I threw the box into the trash. Not out of hate. Out of release. The day I left for New York, the sky was a mix of gold and gray. Like the world itself was torn between endings and beginnings. As the plane took off, I pressed my forehead to the window, watching the city shrink beneath me. That city held the girl I used to be. The girl who waited. The girl who forgave. The girl who broke. But the woman flying away, she was built from everything she survived. I smiled softly. Goodbye, Elena Carter from before. Hello, the woman I was meant to become. New York was loud, bright, and alive. It felt like the universe had opened its arms for me. The night of the big exhibition, I stood among artists, critics, and strangers, all of them admiring my work, not knowing the pain behind each stroke of color. A reporter approached me. "Elena Carter, right? Your art feels raw, emotional. What inspires you?" I smiled gently. "Life, love, loss, and the strength to start over." He nodded. "It's powerful." As he walked away, I turned back to the paintings. Every piece told a part of my story, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the healing, the peace. And at the center of it all was my final piece, a painting titled "The Truth That Set Me Free." It showed a woman standing in front of an open door, her face half in shadow, half in light. It was me. It was every woman who ever loved too much and forgot herself in the process until she remembered. Again. After the show, I went for a walk in Central Park. The air was cool, the trees whispering softly in the wind. And as I stood there, I realized something beautiful. I didn't need closure from Daniel. I'd already given it to myself. I forgave him, not for him, but for me. Because forgiveness isn't letting someone back in. It's setting yourself free from what they did. That night, I wrote one final note in my journal. Revenge isn't about making them hurt. It's about showing them you can rise from the pain they caused and become someone they'll never deserve again. I closed the book, smiled, and whispered to the quiet room, "I'm done looking back." And just like that, Elena Carter, the woman who once thought she wasn't enough, became the woman who was more than enough. Her revenge wasn't a war. It was a masterpiece.